Hello, Taylor Ellwood here, and welcome to the Magical Experiments podcast. It's been a little while since I've been on the show, other than doing one card draws, but I have been meaning to get back to this. I just decided to take a month off so I could get some time with Sheena, who was visiting me. Welcome, Allison. Glad to have you here. Today, I'm going to be talking about the difference between wanting and having in your magical practice. And I think this is a really important distinction to make because you can want something and and yet never have it manifest in your life. Whereas if you have something, you have already clearly manifested it in your life. And this distinction between wanting and having is important because we all want things. I mean, I can definitely tell you right now that there's at least a few different things that I want. But just because I want something doesn't mean that it's an actual reality in my life. And this distinction also applies to your wants. You can want something and not actually have it. The having of it is the manifesting of it. It is the realization of it. It is the defining of it as something that becomes part of your reality. So I want you to think about it like this for a moment. Here's something that you want. Here's have. There's a gap between want and have. You can want something and never actually get it. That wanting brings its own type of energy. And I think a lot of times what stops people from actually having something is that they get addicted to the energy of want. There's something very comforting about that energy and that experience of want. It's familiar. Let's be clear here. If you think about it, we all have the want, the feeling of want in different ways. Whether it's that you want to be with someone romantically or sexually, or whether you want to manifest that dream trip that you've been wanting to go on. You can be in that space of want and yet not get it. And this is actually a very common space for people to be in. So why does that happen? Why is it that we get stuck in the energy of want instead of actually having the experience? Having the experience, after all, brings a kind of a completion to our lives. The best way I can bring this to a good understanding of it is like, let's say there's a book that's coming out by your favorite author, right? You've been waiting to read this book. You can't wait to get it. Finally comes out. You're able to go and buy that book. Now you have the book. You've moved from the energy of want over to the energy of have. You have the book, and something happens. You get to enjoy the book, but then afterwards you're out of that energy of want. You're outside of that energy, that state of being that's like, oh, I'm trying to get to this thing. And what I don't think people realize is a lot of times we get addicted to wanting the thing as opposed to actually having it. Because with having it, there is a sense of completion, a sense of finalization. I have the book. I finally get to read this book. I have it. Once I finished reading the book, oh, there, it's done. I can go back and reread the book whenever I want, but it's done. It's finalized. It's finished. Whereas want leaves us in a place of, I want this thing. I haven't quite gotten there. I don't know when I'll get there, or maybe I do, but I want it. And there's a very comfortable energy in the experience of want. It's a comfortable discomfort. I'm going to call it that because there is a discomfort. I want this thing that's over here. And so we get stuck in the energy of want. And that is the want gap, the gap of wanting. Because wanting alone is not enough. We actually have to come to a state of completion and be comfortable with that state of completion. And if you're not comfortable with that state of completion, you'll stay in the energy of want. The energy of want feels comfortable. You don't have the thing that you want, but at least you understand and know that energy. You know what it feels like. And it motivates you. It goes through your life. And this is a really important thing to understand about the energy of want and how it shows up in your life. You can have something, and once you have it, that has changed the energetic experience for you until you fixate on the next thing that you want. And, some people will bounce from one thing to another, like, oh, okay, I got this thing that I wanted. Okay, great. Now I'm going to move on to the next thing that I want. So, wanting can also become kind of a form of addiction in a way because it's something that moves through us, it motivates us, it grabs us. Now, I see I have another person. Welcome, Mackenzie. If either of you have any questions, feel free to drop those in the chat. I'm more than happy to answer them as we're going through. Now, in my upcoming class, Wanting Without Shame, which is going to be on September 19th, this is one of the things that Sheena and I explore at some length. Like, how do you want clearly and cleanly? So this concept of wanting and being stuck in the energy of wanting can have some very interesting side effects in a way, because we can also want something and feel conflicted about it. Um, if I could see your hands and I said, Give me a show of hands whether you've wanted something and yet you felt some kind of conflict," I'm willing to bet that all of us here right now would have our hands raised. And if not, well, I'll raise my hand at least for myself because I've definitely wanted something and felt conflicted about it in the past. And that creates its own tension. And it's a delicious kind of tension. The energy of want creates a very delicious tension in our lives. And this is where the addiction comes into play. Because it's like if we never quite get what we want, then we're always left in that space and we're always left kind of trying to do something with it. I'm going to drop the link for the class into the show here in case you're interested in checking it out. But we're going to keep talking about this energy of want because the energy of want is something that we need to learn to be relational with. Really, what I find is that both magically and otherwise, that for the most part, a lot of us are in a transactional relationship with want. I want this thing. I'm going to get this result that finishes off the desire for wanting. Then I move on to the next thing. What if we were to be relational with our want? What if we were to be curious about it, like, and ask ourselves, why do I want this thing that I want? What is it that I actually really want? I've had the opportunity to sit with this some myself lately, and it's been kind of fascinating to kind of distinguish between wanting a very specific experience versus just a general sense of want, and recognizing, well, I have this general sense of want, which is not necessarily the same thing. The having also plays a significant role because having means that if we have it, then it has become part of our identity and part of our being. One of the things that I talk a lot about in magical work is that, if you want to really manifest a result, what we have to do is change the person. The result can be over here, again, kind of that want have gap. Having is being, having is becoming. When I have something, I've changed my relationship in a fundamental way with reality, with myself, and with the object of my desire. The object of my desire has become part of my identity. And it might be like a small little change. Like I use the example of, the getting the next book from your favorite author. Well, that's a very small change in your reality. An important one for you in the moment, but really ultimately very small. But let's apply it to something bigger than that. Let's apply it to, I want something specific in my life. Like I want to go on that trip, or I want to manifest, a better opportunity in my life than the one I have. Well, that right there creates a significant change in your reality, and in a way, and yet in a way it doesn't. The other thing that I would say about have is that having is really about the status quo. Once you have something, you go back, you basically integrate it into you, and it becomes part of your status quo, part of the homeostasis of your being. A lot of people in getting stuck on want kind of fail to recognize just how much the have shapes things, because it's like once I have this thing, it's become part of my reality. And yet at a certain point I come back to here. I come back to this place of homeostasis. I'm wanting, but I don't necessarily I'm wanting again, because whatever it is that I've gotten, it's changed my life in some ways, and yet ultimately it's just become part of the homeostasis. It's like for example, if you do magical work to get a new job, right? You want that job. Okay, then you get the job. Then you're in the reality of that job, and that job has become part of your identity, and you've become part of its identity. And at a certain point, you move back into a state of want. In fact, I would say that we're kind of negotiating between wanting and having a lot of the time, most of the time. This is a really important thing to understand. So the gap with wanting and having is where we're kind of like, okay, I want this thing, but I can't get it. Well, why can't I get it? It could be because you actually want to be in that state of wanting. That state of wanting is actually more fulfilling than the actual having. Or it could be that the thing that you want to have requires a fundamental change in your identity. So once you change that identity, then it changes your life. It may or may not really shape or change the world in a significant way, and it doesn't necessarily need to. And yet it can change our relationship with the world. So if we take a relational approach to wanting and having, what we really want to explore is, what does this wanting and having do for our lives? How does it change and shape the way that we think about our lives? How does it change and shape our experience of who we are? And I leave you with that, thinking about it, because I think it's a really important distinction that shapes our magical work accordingly. It shapes our lives. The way that I approach want and have in magic is that I will look at it as like, the want is the opportunity to get clear on the intention. What is the intention? How is this going to shape my actions, my choices, my words, my magic? The have is, how will this change my identity? Can I integrate those into this new homeostasis? And can I be content with that homeostasis? I would argue that that is one of the most significant experiments and experiences of our lives, learning how to be content with what we have, while also learning how to dance with want without allowing it to define us in a way that is not useful. So those are my thoughts. This is my dip of getting back into the Magical Experiments podcasting. Like I said, it's been a little over a month. So, and it's been a little while since I've done a solo episode, but I wanted to share this with you. It's been something I've been thinking about a lot, obviously. And I would be curious to read your thoughts and comments on this. All right. Thank you so much for showing up. And I'm going to have some more episodes soon, including starting up some new interviews with folks. So take care.